For this month's rendition of uploading mentally ill challenges to YouTube, we would be entering the world of true hardcore survival horror in the form of Alien Isolation, a game where lobotomies were frequent, chiropractor's appointments standardized, and IGN reviews borderline criminal. And with me more than euphoric to finally witness the announcement of a sequel, I was naturally pressed to give this masterpiece a replay. But of course, as per usual on this channel, playing the game like a normal human being wouldn't suffice. So it was today we would attempt to beat it in one of the most deranged ways possible, as we would be removing the game's single most important mechanic, stealth, forcing us to face our fears head on, with us losing almost all ability to avoid being dragged into a straight up dogfight. But before we get into the meat and gravy of the challenge, let's first establish the rules, as they are not as simple as one might assume. The problem is that stealth is a lot broader than you'd think, because if we followed the textbook definition, literally anything that wasn't us straight up dying could be written off as such. So to set the challenge, we would separate our moveset into 4 main categories: combat, information, distraction, and stealth. Most of them were very simple to fill in with the various actions we could perform, like shooting weapons, but the most notable ones were crawling in events and crouching. Both could be considered as different kinds of moving, however their purpose was to often avoid encounters or combat, so they too would be written off to the stealth category, in addition to the very obvious ban of any and all enterable lockers and hiding spots. But with many events being necessary for, well, literally progressing the game, I decided they could be entered as usual, with the caveat that we were not allowed to enter them to get out of an active encounter or to hide out in like a wimp. If we did use them, we would have to exit the other side as fast as possible. So entering the nightmare, pun intended, as it was of course the difficulty we would be tackling the challenge in, because why the fuck not? We enter the shoes, or rather their leg off, of Amanda Ripley on board the Torrens. We, Taylor and Samuels, were on a mission to pay a visit to the Sevastopol station to follow some clues, including the files to an island. What? Who wrote that shit in the script? I swear to God, we're not taking that route.
You did, sir.
Fair enough. Wilson, leave a hate comment somewhere.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
So, as I was saying, we were on a mission to recover the flight recorder of the Nostromo, though tragedy struck whilst trying to make our way to the station as the security cable snapped, leaving us wandering Sevastopol completely cut off from our crew. Wandering the empty halls, it seemed health and safety on the station was as important as it was to your average blue-collar boss, shown evidently as the masterfully crafted bridge broke beneath the weight of a wet towel. With a concussion and a workplace lawsuit in mind, our primary objective right now was to try and find a way to contact our ship, which this guy named Axel, after giving us the most American greeting possible,
Stay still.
was more than happy to help us with.
This is your lucky day.
Okay. Sadly, our weapon-wielding enthusiast's screen time had to be cut shorter than that of Pianosaurus, as after walking past a line of people flat out admitting to cold-blooded murder, we immediately break the challenge's rules by... Wait. We do what? Yeah, so in post-production I noticed a little oopsie I made, as I more than embarrassingly stayed in event for an amount longer than 2 seconds. It didn't change anything about the encounter, but still, I promise it won't happen again. So where was I? Ah yes, goodbye Axel. Continuing our solo journey, as it should be, we come into contact with another group of people, less than euphoric to see us. Also, the game forced me to crouch here, okay? I didn't press anything. Please, I swear I'm innocent. But with a bullet embedded in our skull, I did want to quickly point out the insane RNG of the boxes in the early game. The drops were unlike anything I had seen before. Sadly, this was not the rule for the rest of the game. But with us picking up the broken hacking tool, we were now rushed by a platoon of weapon-wielding workers, blocking our way forward, but by walking up the right side and accidentally wasting a flare, we put one of them down in the most lobotomized fashion possible. Which, to be fair, this was kinda his fault. He had like 5 seconds to just pull the trigger. Picking up our own way of distributing exclusive tickets to the afterlife, we stumble across... Oh, it's the flight recorder. Well, that was easy. Of course. Wouldn't be a horror game if things went right for once. With the flight recorder out of order, we turn off the alarm where we come into contact with the one, the only, glitched book? No, it was of course the thing that would turn our playthrough from manageable to completely stroke-inducing, the Xenomorph. Featuring an AI superior to most modern ones, this creature was very much set on killing anything in its way, and even out of it. But with us using our newfound tool to unlock another area, we would for now be facing a whole nother set of threats, as it was at this point the challenge truly started to go from a nice stroll through a decaying station to neck-snappingly difficult, as the androids too were starting to snap necks. Ignoring the massacre that just unfolded in front of us, we instead would be joining it as the role of the victim. It was here I wanted to show why using the vents to get out of combat would have been boring as hell, as the androids had no way of doing shit against such cheese tactics, so going for a more head-on approach, which was of course a whole lot less safe. We in short deactivated a camera to be able to call the elevator out of here. Pressing the button was the simple part. Trying to survive, waiting for it to arrive, was a whole nother can of worms. Eventually, we pulled off the most insane combination of android dodges, giving us space to run past and stun the other one on the way back. Taking the elevator, we would of course be met with more robotic friends, and with us cornered and me expecting another head-to-body rearrangement, we instead popped this guy's eyes out, which was unsettling to say the least, before by some miracle running straight past the other one. They say you can only impress when you lay the bar at a ground level. Today, this android proved differently. The next 2 minutes were filled with me just running around with the same grace and pathfinding skills as Sheva. If you played RE5, you know what I mean. Until we by some miracle of the gods ran across the comm system, giving us the ability to contact our crew, who thankfully had survived the flying debris from the beginning. Though surviving was a very loose word, as Taylor was injured and unconscious, but Samuels was kind enough to send a transit our direction that would get us straight to them. This regrettably meant we had to backtrack the entire way we came from. Oh, I already know this isn't gonna end well. And some terrible twists and turns later, with my built-in Cheva AI at maximum capacity, we get cornered in a, well, corner. With us taking some more than unnecessary hits, we do manage to slip past the other android aura farming near the stairs. I also unironically think this is the guy we ran past upstairs. Maybe he was just trying to restore his honor, which I can only respect. Holding the metaphorical WQ, we eventually arrived at the transit. Talking with Samuels, it as per usual was on us to fetch some of the local goods in the form of anesthetics and bandages for Taylor, which were said to be in the lower levels of the med bay, which of course required a keycard to be entered. A keycard which was guarded by the alien, who was now ready to join this acid trip of a party, as it would be freed from its shackles of scripted movement, with it now able to ruin our day at record speeds. So to stand any chance at getting through the rest of the game with the alien now on our tail, it was essential to understand how its AI actually worked, but to keep it short, as I presume most of you are already in the known, the alien is controlled by two different AIs. The one that controls its movements has the brain contents of a lobotomized turtle, whilst the other AI is quite literally a god, as it knows everything that is happening, where we are, and what our plan might be. This second AI feeds the turtle clues on our position from time to time. However, on Nightmare, these clues are so frequent we couldn't even get a drink from a vending machine without being used as a pincushion. With our inability to hide in a room for more than 2 seconds, as, well, there was literally nowhere to hide, it was crucial to always be on the move, no matter what. If we vegetated in a room for too long, it was practically a guaranteed game over. With that philosophy, we bum rushed to the keycard at walking pace, using the save points on the way to purposefully die to reset the alien's position and aggression status, letting us itch our way to the lower levels where we came to face a giant problem. The level was as simple as can be. 3 rooms that would need to be entered to power the vent to get us out of here. However, this lack of space was the exact reason we came near to a soft lock, as once the alien dropped down and entered the room we were currently occupying, it was just over. Also, they freaking lied to me when they said the alien is blind. You cannot tell me he didn't see me through that glass. And with deaths racking up faster than a college student's credit card debt, it was very obvious we would need to think of some kind of strategy if we didn't want to continue reading the loading screen tips. You don't say! Thanks, Captain Obvious! Fortunately for us, I have become quite the problem solver throughout the previous challenges, and as it turned out, the solution was actually staring right at us. Activating the first half of the coolants, we immediately backtracked to the elevator, taking the ride to another floor to lure the alien into that specific area, to immediately head back to our semi-safe spot, save once we got back up, receive a total fake-out death, and finish the rest of the puzzle in peace, letting us find the necessary medical equipment in the medical reception. Sadly for us, the way out was blocked as the alien had triggered our quarantine. This might seem like another inconvenient detour, however triggering the evacuation alarm to open our exit made doing so that much easier, as the alien's hearing aid got completely overwhelmed by all the noise, letting us, for once, move around without the fear of immediately getting a meeting with God. Or so I thought. Taking a slight detour, we of course could not just take the elevator back to the transit, as one of the 2 cylinders was conveniently missing. This, however, wasn't the only tragedy, as the following area was pelted with humans who were more than ready to skip the whole negotiation part. Trying to make our way to the working Joes and hearing the entire crew behind us get completely decimated, we too would now be facing judgment as we helplessly stood in a corner, with my panic more than palpable.
Are you gone yet? Holy, oh no. I swear to God. Fuck you!
With me dead, the alien decided that now would be the perfect moment to spawn camp me, as I got turned into rags at the ladder again and again and again. After a staggering 10 minutes of trying to figure out what the fuck I was supposed to do, I finally received the Axis Tuner upgrade, made one more clutch save before once again dying, and freed the thankfully friendly working Joe who opened up the door hiding the compression cylinder. And with the goods in our possession, we finally made it back to the transit where Axel's friends gave us just as polite of a welcome as he did.
Hey,
Identify yourself.
are you serious right now, bro?
But of course, things immediately got from bad to worse as the transit leading us to the Marshal's self-built secret Minecraft base was unavailable, which, of course, as always, was for us to deal with whilst they would go for a quick drinking break. Reactivating the transit wasn't a problem, neither was the human that entered as we immediately bashed his head in. But the android... Whew, that was a little more tricky, as I lacked the resources to craft any kind of weapon that could take him out. So I used the one stun button charge that I had to stun and continue to give him the same treatment as the human, only a lot more violent and drawn out. Catching up with the Marshals, we received the godsend of the run. The one weapon that would even make this challenge possible, the flamethrower. With its ability to keep the alien at a safe pandemic-induced distance, at least most of the time, we were now able to not have to completely rely on RNG to decide whether we died or not. Why are you looking at me like that?
I regret nothing. The end.
Now that Taylor was in a coma to recover, the Marshal had a new task for us as he wanted us to try and lock the alien in a cut-off part of the station. And for once, he actually had a good plan to do so. That is, if we ignore the fact we would be playing the role of the lure. This area was masochism in its purest form. With our inability to hide literally anywhere, we instead would need to make prime use of the pillars provided by the game by dancing around them like the ballerina we were. And surprisingly enough, it was working out, even though some calls were closer than I'd have liked them to be. And with one of the exits closed, we moved to the next one, which ended in the longest waiting game of my life, as I kid you not, I sat in the spot for 3 minutes straight. After which our acid-blooded friend finally left, and with the second barricade pulled up, there was only one more remaining, which featured the biggest of the 3 areas. To be fair, this did give us a whole lot more room to move around than previously, and thus a lot more opportunities to stay out of sight. But once we activated the last lockdown procedure, it all went to shit, as my attempts to keep the alien at bay were handicapped, not by my skill, but by my frickin' sensitivity. Waiting out the lockdown in the most stressful way possible, we are saved by the absolute Giga Chat Ricardo, getting us out of there by ending the lockdown as our only route out had been locked, which did sadly render our journey useless, but the Marshal had one more trick up his sleeve, telling us to make our way to the Gemini Labs. It was an area able to be completely detached from the station and sent straight into space. Is this what you call foreshadowing? But the real brutality lay in making it there, as this mission would prove to be by far the hardest one yet. The alien's presence was permanent, the camera's fuck you levels off the charts, and there was nothing but bullshit scattered through the entire encounter. The mission forced us to adapt and think of a solution to every situation. For the first part, which was cutting open the door, we just applied brute force to keep the alien off our backs, but it was important to mitigate the use of our weapon as much as possible, as the alien, just like an addict, would slowly build up a resistance if we overused it. But to get into the main area we had to use our smarts, so we looped the alien around the shelves like a... Oh my god, and how many videos did we have a Dead by Daylight reference now? Man, I really gotta think of some new jokes. But with the alien leaving our domain, we waited to open the door until the moment it followed the only route leading to our room, to make it to by far the most difficult, most drawn out, and most unfair section up until this point. And it wasn't even close. Our mission was to activate 2 levels. Doesn't sound that hard, no, does it? The problem was that there were almost no walls or corners to stand in for us to be granted safety, the cameras cock-blocked and gave our position away, and I died in the most bullshit ways imaginable. The first level was manageable if we just faked it till we made it, but I kinda forgot where the second one was. I had it in mind, it was somewhere in this room, but I just couldn't find it. The unavailability of our map on Nightmare also didn't help, and with crewmates falsely advertising our safety,
this place looks safe.
10 seconds later.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
any trip we made to search for the lever led to our demise. Eventually, I found myself dumbfounded as I found it in the one room I searched in the beginning, which in this case was like 2 hours ago. Using our save points to itch our way closer to the exit, it turned out initiating the final power sequence was even worse, as it triggered the alien to almost permanently reside on our level, with our only glance of solace being the stacked up boxes near the save station, but any attempt to activate the procedure without being dragged into combat was futile. So we bum rushed the activation, burned our friend's ego, and finally made our way to the Gemini Labs, an area you'd expect to be just as aneurysm-inducing. But the game for once took pity on me, as the alien only killed us a handful of times. The more depressing matter was the fact not a single crate in here held any loot. Having returned the power to the labs, we suffered the biggest betrayal of the game, as the marshal shut the door out of here straight in our face, ejecting us as well as the alien from the station. It looked like this was the end, but there was still a chance for us to escape with the help of the airlock. Activating the button to depressurize it, we had one final standoff with the alien. I didn't want to waste any more ammo, but I knew I couldn't be greedy if I wanted to survive this encounter. But with its increased resilience, it sadly took far more to get rid of it for the final time. So entering the airlock, we are thrown back to the station where the alien may no longer be a threat, but that only meant that a ton of others now had the ability to emerge from the depths of hell. But I did have to take a minute to admire this funny death animation.
I am dead. Not a big surprise.
Taking a more brute approach to finding peace, we listen in to the Marshal receiving a punishment fitting the crime for throwing us into space. Ah, it's music to my ears. Having made a slight detour to the bureau, we witnessed the presumed aftermath of the call. Luckily, they missed Ricardo. Genuinely the only person that I wanted to survive. With the team departed from life, we commissioned Ricardo to his new job of providing us with air support via the cameras, whilst we try to make our way to Samuels, who was currently residing in Seeks and Synthetics, to try and deactivate them, one way or another.
Damn!
Getting there was, well, a little more of an adrenaline trip than I'd hoped, meaning we did have the occasional Android-induced game over screen. Also, I might have gotten a bit too carried away with the game.
99999.
I'm honestly sorry y'all had to bear witness to that, but ignoring the fact there was too much in the experience, the Android ambush was also one to be had, as we would be facing off against 8 of them at the same time, with only one bearing the keycard out of here. Before triggering the onslaught, we do get fed by what has to be the best room of the entire game, which I named as the Room of Untold Treasures, as the resources provided were off the charts. There was everything: Molotovs, ammunition in overflow, and countless resources waiting to be picked up by us.
I'm sorry.
We didn't even have to use many for the androids themselves, as the first one we deleted by some insane strain of luck immediately gave us what we were looking for. This was more than huge. It could be the deciding factor for later encounters. Honestly, this kind of felt like opening a present on Christmas morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how this machine worked.
A section you might have expected to be absolute cancer was the 20 consecutive androids line. I know it's not the best name, but at least it's accurate. However, it turned out to be one of the easiest, as my simple run and pray strategy actually worked out on the very first try. Sadly, our win meant we now had to watch the poor Samuel's circuits being cooked all the way to well done. Even though he's only an android, he still has the saddest death of the game, crushing the hearts of many, as he was kinder than most humans we had met so far. And in his last will, he even told us he managed to trick the computer core of the station to allow us to access it so we could try to deactivate the hostile androids ourselves. Of course, this meant another little journey, so we gave our salute to Samuels, and our weapons are gone. Great, yay. Questioning their security checks, as even though we had to give up our weapon, we for some reason were allowed to keep our Molotov cocktail. Don't ask me. But with our main distributors of, well, death gone, the following section was also infested with super buff tank Joes. The only thing I was able to do in here was run around like a headless chicken, as fighting in any sense of the word was futile, and with us unable to hide once detected, we had no choice but to sprint across the entire level to find the next big interactable thing that I had no idea of what its purpose even was. I feel like that's a metaphor for practically the entire game, but okay. And of course, you could sometimes decide to light yourself on fire. Making it to the vents leading to the core by, if I'm being honest, complete accident. The core told us the real reason why everything on the station was going to shit was because of Order 66. Wait, that's the wrong franchise. It was because of Special Order 939, which in short prohibited and restricted any contact to anything outside the station. It was the reason the androids were being more passive-aggressive than your average rage-baiting older cousin.
I'm going to catch you. Please.
The reason this order was active was because there were still presumably alien organisms hiding on the station, which the company wanted to protect. This is probably not good, The computer did tell us there was a way to reset the system. It was by going through a reactor scan, and with us having nothing else to do but to throw ourselves in more danger, we in short rumbled with some more androids, using pretty much all the resources left up to take them out with the infamous EMP and Jack combo, because running or trying to walk past simply never seemed to work out. We eventually stumbled across the weapon that would, though very sparingly, allow us to deal with the suit-wearing working Joes, by this time quite literally lobotomizing them. And with our weapons, minus the flamethrower, finally recovered, I noticed we were drowning in shotgun shells, which would be great if it wasn't for the Joes eating up to 4 of them, and with me not wanting to lose all the ammo the minute I got it into my hands, I instead took the coward's path by running past the remaining ones, and with us taking the elevator down to the reactor cores... Oh no.
Oh no.
Ah,
God,
this
no.
is not good. Finally getting our flamethrower back, and thank God for that, as we would be using and abusing it a lot in the near future, we had now entered the Xenos secret hideout, as well as their, better to say, spawn point. And just like when trolling your friends in Minecraft, we were about to destroy the equivalent of their beds. To do so, we had to activate 2 cores, which were probably in spit water, which I could collect to sell at a later point. But ignoring that, there were also some funny deaths in between where I seemed to have died by slipping. Not to mention that Ripley's constant commentary was less than helpful.
This isn't good.
Oh, you don't say! Really? Getting to the beta core, which probably made some Gen Zs in the audience curl up in laughter. Now that we had reached it, the Xenos would try their best to keep us from activating it. It wasn't a positive either that we now had multiple of them to worry about. With new heights of flamethrower fuel used, we resurfaced the power to the second core, activated it, and proceeded to panic save the game. Now all we had to do was to get the fuck out of here. Which would have been made a lot easier if the facehuggers weren't so damn unstable. And I mean that in the most literal way.
Bye, have a great time.
These guys got me way too many times. Way too many. With my child support payments eventually avoided, we exit the elevator and continue to play a 10-minute long rendition of Ring Around the Reactor as the androids slowly followed suit, whilst we played with our Game Boy. Finally putting the purge into progress in the hopes that this was going to fry all the aliens and allow us to deactivate the androids. Oh, god damn it! Well, we might have just made things a whole lot worse. On our way back to the bureau with nothing but shame on our shoulders, we got an unexpected call from Ricardo. I didn't really want to hear any of it, but he told us there was a way for us to get off the station, as the purge had miraculously reset the communication systems, allowing us to listen in as the Torrens tried to contact us. They told us the station was critically damaged, and that it would soon crash into the gas giant. They wanted to take survivors but had no way of docking onto the station. This was our chance. And by that, probably also the last one. So we made our way to the communications where we pulled into a straight up 3v1 as the super armored guys tried to stop us. But their aim and reaction time, which could be written off to their Star Wars helmets, made it hard for them to do literally anything. So I threw the biggest bang for our buck Molotov off the run, burning both of them to a crisp. What a deal! Skipping over the 20-minute long walking simulator, as I'd like this video to keep progressing at a steady pace, thank you very much. We in short got hit by every projectile detaching from the station and got the communication connections back up and running. Talking to Verlaine, we were posed with another problem, as the Torrens had no way of docking onto the station. We would manually have to extend the docking bridge, and although I was getting sick of all these side quests, it was apparent we either came to terms with it or, well, burn up as the station crashed into another planet. But it was here in the final segments that the game would truly start to break under the challenge's rules. And I mean break in the most literal sense possible.
Bye, have a great time.
I'm sorry, what? Huh?
I was dying at literally every corner. It literally didn't matter which one we occupied. The alien always seemed to sniff us out. I tried waiting, I tried to just walk past. Tried distractions. And brute force. but even that didn't even let me make my way to the room necessary to power the transit. It was here where we would need to apply all the strategies we had cooked up until this point to give us a chance at making it out of here. We looped it by going circles around the wall, always trying to stay just out of sight. We used our strategy of safe scumming to progress room by room, objective by objective, until we got to the next area where the cycle of death only repeated itself. With ammunition nearing its end, we finally got the RNG needed to get to the elevator leading to the docking terminals, where we immediately saved. But the nightmare was far from over. At this point the game threw encounter after encounter at our head to try and catch us lacking, which by now you probably know happened a lot. There was only one viable strat for the next room, which was to use our last Molotov. Am I stupid or something? To use our last Molotov. And proceed to speedrun the objective as an android was following on our toes. We had to pray that the time gap was enough, use the code, activate the forklift and get a goodbye kiss from our fellow friend.
Asshole!
But of course, the Gauntlet of Encounters couldn't yet be done, as we reached the Hallway of Horrors. If the name didn't bring over the memo, it was a simple hallway connected to 2 rooms. Which was exactly the problem. There was no option to avoid an encounter in here. The alien could spot you from anywhere and literally everywhere. It didn't help that I made us save so bad the alien would always spawn next to us after dying.
Bruh.
No, that really didn't help. But for some reason, while trying to keep the alien at a distance by having the flamethrower out, it retreated back into the vent without us even having to use any of the remaining ammo. This was more than lucky. It was a sign that we were destined to get out of this place and off of the station. So we got to the lever leading out of here where... Well shit, we have to go all the way back again. With me once again being proven that this is a horror game where backtracking was the norm. Doing so while hiding in plain sight, witnessing the aliens' fully upgraded fire resistance firsthand, and saving at each opportunity, we eventually reactivated the generator and walked back with the most anxiety-inducing music in the background. I felt like I was starting to lose it. The screeches, the panic, just for us to perish right in front of the finish line. But it didn't matter, I was determined, so we made it back to the vent, still absolutely shitting myself because of all the noises, and witnessed the entire station going to shit. Somehow, literally everything was on fire. Our journey led us back to where it all began, one of the first areas of the game. Using the ion torch, we had finally reached the computers used to extend the docking bridge. But upon activation, the grueling reality hit us. The bridge wasn't usable anymore. It was broken by all the flying debris. There was only one way left. We had to suit up and use the maintenance rig instead. Waiting for the alien to pass, we made our way to the spacesuits. Thinking we had finally made it. Wow, if there's one IGN critique I can agree with, then it's that the ending is more than just dragged out. It's pulled longer than those slime playthings. But rest assured, as we were nearing the end of our journey, the final section focused on us flambeing the countless facehuggers trying to give us children. Oh my god!
Jesus!
Why the hell is the train going at Mach fuck? We were breaking bone after bone in this final section. I don't even know how Ripley could stand after all this shit. And even the main character's syndrome seemed to not be helping, as her vision was slowly starting to fade. Limping our way back to the suits, we geared up and exited the station to walk up to the final objective of the run. It was all falling apart, and we were being dragged more and more into the planet's atmosphere. This was our last chance. Activating the emergency release bolts with the xenomorphs getting closer and closer. With the station and everyone and everything that was left on it meeting their end, we were picked up by Verlaine. We thought we were safe. We thought we had made it, but one last xenomorph had made it on board. We couldn't let it live. We couldn't let it roam and kill everyone on this ship as well. So we pulled one last heroic act by blasting ourselves, as well as the creature, into orbit. We may be aimlessly cruising through space, but at least we had completed the challenge. We had parted from our ways of being a scaredy cat, hiding in a locker for 10 minutes, and had shown just how much of a badass Amanda really was. So I truly hope you enjoyed the journey. If you've made it up until the very end, then the chances are high you did, and I'm beyond thankful for that. If you have any other ideas for challenges you'd like to see on the channel, then you are welcome to share them in the comments and... Oh. Wait. What is this? Wait, something's wrong.